Today on the Dugs, we continue our half-drunk Sportscenter production of the Franchise Cup and answer who is going to reign supreme between the all-time Yankees, Braves, Tigers, and Rockies. However, we'll also titillate you with stories about the most disgusting baseball legend of all time, school you on a Derek Jeter mobile game you probably didn't know about, and tell you not one, but two stories that sound like the beginning of a romantic comedy about a baseball player meeting their love interest only to be ruined by said player boinking the sister. I'm going to make a couple of predictions. Number 1, Adrian Beltre's Hall of Fame plaque will be the subject of many TikTok and YouTube shorts as we see person after person touching the poor man's bronzed head. And number 2, none of those videos will be as good as what you're about to watch because the Dugs have uploaded a new video. Welcome back to the Dugs, where everything we do is an excuse to tell a lot of baseball stories and a lot of jokes. My name is Johnny Paprika, and this is a continuation of our Franchise Cup tournament. It's an ongoing series, but don't worry, you can jump in right here if you want, as each video covers a different round robin that we bring you in its entirety, so there's really no order you have to watch these in. Let's jump right into the action. I've been looking forward to this group for a while, as it features the #1 ranked franchise in the absolutely stacked Yankees, but there's one problem. They've landed in an absolute meat grinder of a group. They've got the Braves today, the Tigers in Game 2, and I guess the Rockies are also there. The Braves have maybe the scariest three-man rotation of John Smoltz, Phil Niekro, and today's starter, Greg Maddux. Unsurprisingly stacked though they are, the Yankees managed a few hits but no runs in the first 2 innings of play. The third, however, is a different story. Ancient legends be damned, it's a far more recent Yankee in Robinson Cano that opens the scoring with this solo blast. And the Braves' Greg Maddux, well, he seems to have taken that personally because he starts striking out Yankees left and right. Robinson Cano in the third, not again. In the top of the fourth, both Aaron Judge and Mickey Mantle go down via the K. The fifth, he gets Derek Jeter and Babe Ruth on disgusting pitches. Hey, speaking of disgusting, Greg Maddux is no stranger to disgusting. On the mound, he was a highly knowledgeable surgeon. Off the mound, he was a 12-year-old who lost his Ritalin. There's too many stories to go deep on any one, so let's play the lightning round. He used to ram other pleers' rental cars with his own until one or more bumpers fell off. Those guys actually got off easy because he reportedly spit tobacco and left his, nose leavings all over the place after picking it in Smoltz's vehicle. He'd spit on the ceiling and wait for gravity to aid in the ambush of an unsuspecting member of the press or a teammate. He'd urinate on the legs of rookies in the shower. The Cubs' Mark Grace reportedly once checked in on a young Maddux who looked uncomfortable on the mound, only to find out that he was so amped up to pitch that day that he brought some extra wood to the mound. The ball on the receiving end of Chipper Jones's first career hit was saved as a keepsake, as these things typically are, but when he went to collect it after the game, he found out that ceilings weren't the only thing that Greg hocked epic loogies on. He seems like the kind of guy that would assure you that don't worry, it's just a prank, bro, as he beat you within an inch of your life with a hose. Anyhow, the Braves aren't having any luck with Ron Guidry either, so when Joe DiMaggio reps this RBI single in the 6th that makes the game 2-0, the Braves finally get something going in the bottom half, and they have runners on first and second with no one out, with Hank Aaron stepping to the plate. But that is a double play. A runner advances to third, but that's a huge disappointment out of one of the most notable players on this Braves squad. So it'll be up to Darrell Evans to pick the Braves up, and oh my! Just like my dignity after diddling my way out of a parking ticket with the meter maid behind that 7-Eleven, that ball is gone. Tie game 2-2. In the bottom of the 7th, the Braves are still filling it. Guidry retires the first 2 Braves, but Jeff Blauser keeps the inning alive with a single. Chipper Jones also singles. Marcus Giles is going to the strip club because he's got singles, and Rico Carty will be joining him there. That's fine, you just don't make eye contact in the back room and just ride that sucker out. Not awkward at all. Following the barrage of singles and a walk to Hank Aaron, Atlanta finds themselves up 2, and they take out Guidry for Dave Righetti. He gets out of the inning, but not before he walks in a run to give the Braves a 3-run lead. And that will do it, as here is Craig Kimbrell shutting the door on the Yankees by closing the game with the strikeout of Mickey Mantle. In a battle of one of the best pitching squads assembled against one of the best sets of bats, pitching wins the day. Maddux finishes his night at 8 innings pitched, striking out 9 while only surrendering 3 runs. It was the more recent Yankees doing most of the work with the bats, as outside of A-Rod, Cano, and Joe DiMaggio, only Yogi Berra had a hit, and he only had 1, meaning a whole lot of legends brought a legendary bagel to the board today. Let's flip to the other squads in this group. The Tigers have some ancient legends of their own in Ty Cobb and Al Kaline, while Colorado has a beer whose key selling feature revolves around the can doing something when it's cold. That's not the beer doing any work. That is your fridge, friends. Coors Light tastes exactly like what I imagine giving a robot a rim job would taste like. Surprisingly, we've reached the 4th inning and there's no score thus far, thanks to the fine pitching by Rocky starter Ubaldo Jimenez, but Detroit fixes that with 2 back-to-back RBI doubles from Sam Crawford and Ty Cobb. And that gave the Tigers the taste of blood, which is one of many liquids I'd prefer to taste over Coors Light. The bottom of the 5th sees them pretty much put this one away, starting with an Al Kaline single, followed by a call to the bullpen, bringing Jorge De La Rosa in relief. Fun fact about Jorge, he's got no clue where the ball's going. None. He was top 10 in the league twice in beaning hitters, is just outside the top 100 all-time in wild pitches with a total of 96, and led the NL in errors from a pitcher in 2009. Let's take a look at why I'm dropping that knowledge. First thing he does is hit Bill Freehand with the pitch to load the bases. A bases-loaded walk to Sam Crawford scores a run. A wild pitch to Ty Cobb scores another run, who later in that bat would net himself an RBI single. A second wild pitch keeps the conga line going on the base paths, allowing Charlie Gehringer to bring some additional runs home with a single. And when all is said and done, Detroit led 10-0 after the 5th. And unsurprisingly, that will be enough to get it done, as the final ended up 12-2 in favor of the Big Kitties. I usually try to get a story in alongside each of our games, but this one flew by so quickly I didn't have the opportunity to focus in on one player. So, one more on Coors Light, I guess. It's a big company, so they're no strangers to sponsorships, and it goes a lot further than just Coors Field. In fact, they once sponsored the most dominant American group of cyclists of the era. Among those in the group was Alexi Grewal. The sponsorship did buy branding on incredibly gifted cyclists, but in the case of Alexi, it also slapped the Coors name on a man that chopped off some of his fingers with a saw and was caught doping. He also battled other drugs and alcoholism throughout his life, but he later characterized his alcoholism as not that bad. After all, he still wouldn't touch Coors Light. Anyhow, wrapping this one up with a silver bullet, Ty Cobb was the big headline today, going 3 for 4, scoring twice, bringing 2 runs home and stealing a base. We didn't talk about him much because of the offensive explosion, but Hal Newhouser had a nice game for the Tigers, holding the Rockies to 2 earned runs over 6 2/3 while striking out 9. So that puts the Yankees in a whole lot of trouble. Should a tie-break scenario emerge, good luck topping the +10 run differential the Tigers just put up. To stay alive, the Yankees almost definitely need to beat the Tigers here in Game 2 if they want a chance to advance. And that's not a great start, as Ty Cobb gets things kicked off with a double, and then shows his hustle by tagging up and advancing to third on a fly ball. That's big, because lefty Gomez delivers a wild pitch, allowing Cobb to come home and score. 1-0 Tigers. And Ty Cobb's hustle becomes an early theme, as here he is in the top of the 3rd, stealing second. Sure hope he's wearing good socks. You wouldn't want to get a corn on the Cobb. Getting into scoring position seems like it'll be crucial, as Harry Heilman sends a single out to Aaron Judge in the outfield. But like a justice that's forgotten to wash his hands after eating a bucket of chicken, this Judge is dropping the hammer on Ty Cobb and guns him out at the plate. That keeps the score 1-0 Tigers, which is still a formidable deficit because the Detroit Tigers pitcher Dizzy Trout's looking awfully tough, as in the bottom half of the 3rd he strikes out the imposing stretch of Derek Jeter, Babe Ruth, and Alex Rodriguez. Naturally, I was curious about how Dizzy got his name, but was disappointed in the outcome. Turns out he just wanted to be as well known and highly regarded as Dizzy Dean, so he borrowed that nickname. Dizzy Dean got the name while in the military for doing something stupid, but it's stuck in his baseball career because his fastballs seem to have a dizzying effect on hitters. The Dizzy nickname also seemed to stick to players that were a bit off kilter, as both Dizzies were in spades. Among Dizzy Trout's highlights were joining Ty Cobb in the I Beat Up a Fan club, though at least Dizzy's fan had both of his hands. He also frequently would leave the mound in the middle of the inning for a drink of water out of the dugout. Makes sense, gotta hydrate. And discovered he could be a viable pitcher by killing flying squirrels in the forest by throwing acorns at them with his friend. My favorite story is about how he met his wife. One night, after a victory, teenage fan Ruth Ortman had a celebratory chocolate cake delivered to Trout's hotel room. He would later tell his teammates that he had met the girl he was going to marry. They asked who, the girl that sent the cake? He replied, no, her sister. Sure enough, the very first date he had with the sister of the cake baker. He proposed, she accepted, and they were married shortly thereafter. Much later on in his life, 10 kids later to be exact, he was asked by a reporter how long he had been married. He replied, nearly 6 months. When asked how that could be possible with all those children, he said that he and his wife operate on a 6-month basis. If they still love each other after that time, they tack on another 6 months. It's worked out pretty well so far, and they say romance is dead today. I think this serves as proof it was never alive in the first place. Anyhow, the game gets a lot more interesting in the fourth. Still down 1, the Yanks get runners on the corners with 1 out, and Don Mattingly sends a grounder to Alan Trammell, which could have very well been an inning-ending double play, but he takes his eye off of Donnie Baseball's baseball, and it eats him up. So instead of the inning being over, Joe DiMaggio scores to tie the game, and Yogi Berra delivers a clutch 2-out single to put the Yankees ahead. 2 innings later, Aaron Judge shows Ty Cobb how not to be thrown out at the plate. You see, what you have to do is just make sure the ball comes down on the other side of the wall. It's not so hard. And so it's 3-1 Yankees. We are not done yet, however, as the top of the 8th does see Al Kaline provide an RBI single for the Tigers to make it a 1-run ball game late. But that's all they get in that inning. If the Tigers are going to get it done, they're going to need to do it in the 9th. But if they're going to get it done in the 9th, they're going to have to overcome potentially the greatest closer the game has ever seen in Mariano Rivera. He has no issue getting the first 2 outs, but that brings up Ty Cobb in an absolute dream matchup. Mariano ends the game by striking him out, and the Yankees are alive and well. After getting off to a rough start in the first, Yankees lefty Gomez lasted through the 8th, only surrendering 2 runs while striking out 10. Dizzy Trout finished the game, giving up the 3 runs, but only 1 of them was earned. Ty Cobb gave it his all today, hitting his second double of the tourney and stealing his second base, but wasn't enough. Alright, let's go watch the Rockies get their ass kicked again. Naturally, as soon as I say that, the first highlight I've got for you is the Rockies' Vinny Castilla taking the pitch over the wall. 2 men are on, and so Colorado jumps out to an early 3-run advantage. Well, we can't have that. We grabbed a younger Andrew Jones from Atlanta, and you can tell. In the top of the 3rd, he's still second, and just a couple of pitches later, he pilfers 3rd. Jeff Blauser thinks that hustle is absolutely hilarious because Andrew is able to walk home on this 2-run shot to make it a 1-run game. That 1-run lead lasts just until the 5th as Chipper Jones ties things up with an RBI single. That feels better, a little more natural. But don't look now, in the bottom of the 6th, Vinny Castilla dials long distance, which is a reference that still works in his era, for his 2nd home run of the game. Castilla is no stranger to dialing things. In fact, he ended up with his current wife while shopping for a new cell phone. The nice lady closed the deal with getting him to agree to take her sister out on a date. I'm not sure if that's the standard deal closer in that store. I guess it certainly beats the 3 months of Max I got. If it is a standard deal, I hope Vinny also negotiated for a free set of VD tests. His 2nd home run of the game was a 2-run shot to make it 5-3 Rockies. In fact, that will do it, as the Rockies only give up 1 additional hit the rest of the way en route to an absolutely shocking win over the Braves in Game 2. Castilla was a ball hog and saved every Rockies RBI for himself as he drove in 5 runs with his 2 long balls. Credit to the Rockies pitching staff for making those 5 runs stand up after giving up 12 in Game 1. German Marquez had a passable performance going 5 1/3 and surrendering 3 runs, but the bullpen shut it down after that. The combination of Steve Reed, Darren Holmes, and Adam Ottavino surrendered only a single hit over the final 3 1/3, which outdueled John Smoltz's uncharacteristically poor performance of giving up 5 runs in 5 1/3. The Rockies are alive and well. Colorado's win looms large in the final outcome of the group, as Detroit's hefty run differential is now null and void. With all 4 of our squads at 1-1, our next 2 games will be win or go home, simple as that. Before we get into those games, however, it's time to revisit our ongoing series of featuring channels with more subscribers than us. Today's channel is Kerry Johnson, who's a dude that enjoys wearing female masks with his friends while they talk about, well, just about anything. Look, man, bend your gender any way you want. You can bend your gender any way you want, but the only way I can figure this guy having more subscribers than me is the implied threat that he'll eat your face if you don't click subscribe. The Dugs, we totally won't eat your face, but maybe click subscribe just to be on the safe side. The Tiger and the Braves are going to kick things off in our winner-take-all final games. The Tigers' Charlie Gehringer has got some weird defensive numbers, landing himself in the top 10 in fielding percentage for second baseman in 15 different seasons, but he also led the league in errors in 2 different seasons, and is 31st all-time with a total error count of 309. Well, make that 310. This blunder on a Rico Cardi ground ball scores Chipper Jones, and Atlanta has the initial advantage of 1-0 after 1. Detroit gets right to it, however. In the top of the 2nd, Ty Cobb fires back with an RBI single. And a few batters after that, he comes home himself on this 2-run single by Miguel Cabrera. Detroit responds by going up 3-1. But back and forth we go. The Braves' Chipper Jones makes it 3-2 in the bottom of the second on this single. Henry Heilman might have had a shot throwing the runner out at the plate, but at the last moment spotted an X in the 12th row behind home plate and decided that was a better target instead. Marcus Giles follows with an RBI on a fielder's choice to tie it up, once again bringing up Rico Cardi. He singles, and this gives the Braves a chance for the lead as the runner tries for home, and this time it's Ty Cobb airmailing it over the catcher. That's the second time a Rico Cardi highlight has been aided by a Detroit error, but I'm sure he's glossing over that fact as he pats himself on the back for a job well done. Rico's got a bit of a complex. Now, in all fairness, Rico has as much right to complain as anybody. Early on, he had a season-ending injury from tripping over first base, was accused of playing up a back injury, only to later discover via a doctor visit that one of his legs was shorter than the other, and that's what was creating the issue. He sustained another injury in a car crash, got himself some tuberculosis in 1968, collided with a teammate in 1970 and broke his knee in, quote, the worst way possible, and then miraculously returned from that injury with a resounding shot off the top of the outfield wall in his first at-bat back, only to have that later go bad due to a blood clot, thus putting him out for the year once again. He had his jaw fractured by a pitch not long after his subsequent return and broke a bone in his foot in 1972 sliding into second. Even taking all that into consideration, he still had a reputation as a troublemaker and kind of a pain in the ass. To hear Rico tell it, he was just standing up for his rights. This rebuttal could have been in response to many things, like getting into a fight with his teammate Hank Aaron, punching a heckler, which seems to be a theme today, getting fined for both arguing and shoving an umpire, getting into a fight with his teammate Ron Reed, frequently blaming external factors when teams wanted to move on from him due to his declining performance and poor attitude, and lastly, responding to the surrounding buzz of his arrival in professional baseball in the worst way possible. When 8 major league clubs and 4 Dominican ones offered him a contract to procure his services, he signed absolutely every last one of them. So those blunders by the Tigers have the Braves up 4-3, and Phil Niekro is trying to hold on. He gets through the third fine, but a Harry Heilman sac fly ties it up in the fourth. And in the fifth, the Tigers take the lead on this Ty Cobb single, 5-4 Tigers. In fact, things settle down after that, and the score is 5-4 entering the bottom of the ninth. Detroit makes all kinds of defensive substitutions as Travis Fryman, Al Kaline, and Curtis Granderson come in to back up their closer, John Hiller. First 2 come up for the Braves, and the first 2 go down. The final chance for the Braves in this tourney steps up in the form of Hank Aaron. Hey, did you stash any of those defensive subs in the bleachers? Because if not, the Braves have just tied it at 5 and we are off to extra innings. The top of the 11th represents Craig Kimbrell's second inning in relief. He does allow a runner, but Alan Trammell flies out to give the Braves a chance in the bottom half of the inning. Marcus Giles gives the Braves a glimmer of hope at this one-out double, and look who it is. Rico short-leg Cardi rips a double of his own. There's no chance to get Giles at the plate, and despite having the Braves down to their final out with no one on, the Tigers have been eliminated from the tourney. Ty Cobb is livid and drop-kicking anything that moves. That was an absolute thriller. You can see why Cobb was so angry, as he had a nice day going 3 for 5 with 2 runs and 2 RBIs, but it wasn't enough. After Niekro turned in a stinker, the Braves bullpen of Rick Mahler, Tom Glavine, and Craig Kimbrell keep the Tigers off the board the rest of the way. But who's going to join them? The Rockies or the Yankees? Seems like an easy question to answer, but the Rockies made an ass out of me in their win against the Braves, and they're getting right back into that ass play in the first, as DJ LeMahieu gets things started with a 1-out triple and then is brought home by Todd Helton. Rockies sport the first lead, but sanity restores itself in the second with a Mickey Mantle solo shot to tie it up, and later that inning, it's winner-go-home time, and Derek Jeter has clutched like my grandma's pearls after hearing her grandson drop the phrase ass play on YouTube. That is also a solo shot, and so the Yankees lead 2-1. You know what's not clutch? Yankee Andy Pettitte takes the mound in the next inning and loads the bases with no one out. And then with his back against the wall, Andy does exactly what you think he'll do. He balks. That ties the game up 2-2, and the Rockies still have an excellent shot at adding on. Andy redeems himself by striking out Chris Iannetta, and Ellis Burks gets one deep, which could bring a run home on a sac fly, but he once again hit it to the long arm of the law, and Aaron Judge, and the runner is out, preserving the tie. That means this Yankee double in the fifth gives the Yanks the lead back at 3-2, but the Rockies still aren't done. A 2-out double in the seventh by DJ LeMahieu chases Andy Pettitte from the game, who bounced back quite nicely, going 6 in the third, only having surrendered the 2 runs up until that point, but he's gonna get charged with one of these as well. Dave Righetti gets the call in relief, and on the first pitch he throws, Todd Helton shows it out of the building for a 2-run shot. 4-3 Rockies. And so they've got the lead late, but the Yankees waste waste no time in squashing their hopes. Don Mattingly returns the favor of ruining a reliever's day and takes Darren Holmes' pitch deep to tie it up. The Yanks aren't done there. Derek Jeter is up this inning with the Yankees tournament on the line, and someone send that ball a gift basket because Jeter's just it right out of the building. That is a 2-run shot. 6-4 Yankees. It's like a video game with this guy. Derek Jeter video game? Glad you asked. I was not previously aware of Derek Jeter's pro baseball, but I did my due diligence and came away mildly amused. I first stumbled on footage of the 2007 iteration. Looks like it wasn't licensed by the MLB, as Jeter seems to be the only one in the lineup with an actual baseball name. Oh, and check it out. He's literally perfect at everything. You know, game doesn't seem that bad, if not a little weird. Literally every picture they use as a scoreboard profile pic looks suspiciously like Alex Rodriguez, which gives off some weird vibes, if I'm being honest, Jeets. I was also able to dig up footage of the 2008 iteration, which includes bits of advice from Derek, though the one tip that I was able to find revolved around what to eat before a game. Prince Fielder has clearly never played this game. The 2008 version is also cited as the first wireless baseball game to feature a catcher, which doesn't seem right, but I'll be damned if I'm gonna fact check that one. It was also confusing to me because there was no obvious catcher pictured until this little cutscene. So sure, there's a catcher, I guess, but I'm not sure about the utility. I think we were all assuming the ball was being caught by someone and not disappearing into the vacuum of space, but I guess it's nice to have confirmation. So that takes us to the bottom of the ninth, and you know what that means. Enter Sandman. Mariano Rivera is getting into the game. The Rockies have had too much caffeine, though, as Matt Holliday leads off the inning with a single. The Yankees record an out, but singles by DJ LeMahieu and Larry Walker load the bases up with 2 outs. And so Carlos Gonzalez can kill the Yankees in this tournament with one swing of the bat. And he's swinging it, but that ball is going to fall short of the wall and right into the glove of Joe DiMaggio. It wasn't easy, but that win will leave the Yankees with their lives while the Rockies are eliminated. Though I feel they did far better in this group than they had any right to. Aside from Jeter, whose contributions were obvious, the other big stories of the day were Joe DiMaggio's 4 hits, 2 of which were doubles and an RBI, as well as Mickey Mantle's 3-for-5 performance, which included a home run. Babe Ruth shockingly ends his qualification stage without a hit to speak of, but we'll be seeing him again. In fact, let's take a gander at what this group's results means for the tournament's future. Quick warning, this is where you want to look away if you don't want to spoil the outcome of prior videos, so time to turn your back and head over to our Franchise Cup playlist if you want to catch up. Okay, we good? The Yankees finished second in the group, and their run differential was flat, which means they're going to have to play a play-in game if they want to get to the next round. The A's and the Pirates are most likely cussing under their breath. And so there's one group left to go in the qualifiers, and it's a weird one. 2 of the historical franchises fell into it, and the New York (baseball) Giants and the Philadelphia A's will seek to join the Browns and the Brooklyn Dodgers in the next round. The 2 current franchises are the Cubs and the Tampa Bay Rays. The Cubs' century-plus history has them looking like a tough squad to handle, but that century-plus also came with a 108-year championship drought, so they are no strangers to the suck. That does it for us today. If you enjoyed this, please feel free to give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And as always, I've been Johnny Paprika, hoping all of your balls are fair and all of your wood is good. Good night, everybody.